Welcome back, or welcome to the first Hoops Temple live podcast we've ever produced. I'm Nathan Schwartz. Joining me from Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder.
Good to see you guys. We're live. I can't edit out my mistakes anymore. I have to be good at this the first time through.
And joining us from New Zealand, Dylan Williamson.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Aaron, I'm going to put you on the spot and get the absolute worst takes out of you possible.
Okay, let's do this.
We are recording at a non-normal hour because we just had game sevens. We had two game sevens. The champs are dead. The Wolves are still in it. The playoff wall behind me needs to be updated. Goodbye, no longer Sonics, now Thunder. Goodbye, Dikembe Mutombo. It is Timberwolves time. How are we feeling about the Wolves and their chances of winning the championship now?
I like the wall. The only team in the conference finals, the Minnesota Timberwolves, just the wonders. I feel incredible. What a game! I thought that was just. I felt like it was a beatdown. Really, it wasn't a dominating performance, but the Nuggets looked so gassed towards the end. Jokic looked so gassed towards the end that they played just practically the entire game. When Murray got off to a hot start, I was like, "That's it." Like they got the good Murray game. They got he turned into Kobe Bryant and not Andre Robertson. They got him, and it just didn't matter. I feel like that Wolves team, in the moments where I felt like other younger teams would break down, because it got kind of spicy towards the end of it. Like just for a single solitary second, you're like, oh man, like Denver might actually kind of look into this. And you had the Karl-Anthony Towns putback dunk, and I feel like that dunk wasn't the craziest play, but it almost like freed Minnesota from the chains of bad basketball, because like the player with the player with their most bad playoff moments recently, and he also just had a really weird turnover on the baseline. You're like, oh no, Karl-Anthony Towns is like turning into dust, and he has this crazy putback dunk. You're like, holy shit, he figured it out. He figured it out. Happy learned how to putt. Oh.
Yeah, no, an awesome game and an awesome performance from Karl Towns. He really figured it out late. A real roller coaster for him. I felt like in the first half he was actually really harmful for them on both ends. They were double teaming Anthony Edwards, and he was the one that was getting the ball as the open man, and just doesn't have the basketball IQ to make a quick decision. Like he catch the ball really deep, too deep to shoot, and can't pass to an open man fast enough. And so I felt like he was really hurting them in the first half. He's perpetually going to be in foul trouble. Like that was such a roller coaster in the fourth quarter too. Like, is this guy just going to foul out? It's going to happen at any second. And he managed to hang in there until the final buzzer. And an excellent second half from him on both ends, particularly offensively in the third quarter, really gave them some juice.
Yeah, there was a point earlier in the series where they figured out that they could spam a little pick and roll action and get Murray switched to defending Cat. And like once Minnesota did that, and Denver felt like never adjusted off of that. Because you'd like get Gordon on Anthony Edwards, and like Denver's totally comfortable having Gordon on Edwards, but they never did like a backline switch to get like MPJ or someone else to defend Cat. And Cat could just cook it against Denver. And I don't know why there was never an adjustment made, but he was a huge part of their win. Also, Naz Reid, Aaron, I've got to ask you this: is Naz the rightful Sixth Man of the Year winner now?
It felt like it. It felt like it in that last moment, and because my complaint about Naz Reid winning that was that he wasn't their closer, and he closed that game. He
closed
was
it.
such a massive part of that rose like 84-82 into like 94-82, like that 10-0 run in the fourth. I thought he was fantastic. The block on Jokic. Also, just to be such a great free throw shooter and knock those two down like effortlessly after got smacked in the face. I thought it was incredible. But yeah, I thought he just single handedly kind of yanked them from a close game into that big lead towards the end.
Yeah. So now this is all setting up for a Dallas, Minnesota Western Conference Finals. Just off the bat, what are you guys' initial thoughts, takes, predictions?
Dylan, go ahead.
It's quite sudden, you know. We haven't had a lot of time to think about this. Be focused on the game at hand, which has wrapped up a matter of minutes ago. Um, Eyeballing the matchups, the way that Minnesota were able to ultimately win this series is defensively by shutting down the paint. We saw in the games where they were able to have success, Denver's 3-point shooting attempts really went up, and Jokic was, well, he shot like 9 3-pointers tonight because they were able to lock down the paint. And now they come up against a team um, in the Mavericks who have very good perimeter shot makers from their two main guys. But the way that the Mavs have been able to succeed is also defensively by playing these guys who aren't necessarily offensive players around Luka and Kyrie. And if they're able to shut off the paint against the likes of Derek Jones Jr. or PJ Washington, who can make some threes and is shooting really well in the playoffs, but is primarily a inside the arc scorer. And then obviously they play two traditional centers for the entire game. And so if they're able to once again shut off the paint and force Dallas, the role players on Dallas to make 3-point shooters like they were able to do against Denver, then I think that they are the favorites in the series.
Yeah, I love some of the matchups that we've got going into this because you've got Kyrie, one of the most flamboyant and exciting point guards, versus Mike Conley, a very technically sound point guard. Like defensively, I think Mike Conley's at a disadvantage, but he's a very smart, very level-headed, steady presence at the point guard. Kind of the twos, you got Luka versus Anthony Edwards, the burgeoning superstardom. How old is Luka at this point? Is he 24? I think he was still on our top players under 24. Did he just turn 24 when we did this? Like the future of the league. Small forwards. You got McDaniels. I'm going to say they'll probably put McDaniels on PJ Washington. I know he's kind of the 4, but that's a great defensive length from Minnesota to have against PJ's hot shooting. But on the flip of that, Derek Jones Jr., a good defender, go against Karl-Anthony Towns. And someone that Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't have to defend as much. So he's going to have a lot lighter of a workload. And now Rudy gets to just be his paint presence, defensive stopper at the rim, which is what he's absolutely best at. Going against Gafford, we're lively. I feel like the matchups are really fun both ways, but I do think they lean towards Minnesota.
And they should. And they should. The way Dallas beat OKC was just to outsize them, and they're not going to have it let that easy this time. They're not going to be able to play a team that just plays their centers 175 pounds. And that's basically their size. And we'll talk about how the one-seeded Thunder failed at some point. But heading into this matchup with Minnesota, I think they're going to give Luka hell. Like, they're going to really frustrate him. And I thought they guarded Jokic, I mean, basically as well as anyone has since, like, the Lakers in 2020, basically. And that was a kind of a different version of Jokic even. But I thought they allowing Jokic to get his while still making him work for every bucket and then just preventing and shutting down the guys around him is like the that's a way to do it. It's the way to do it. It's impossible in theory unless you've built this Minnesota team. And if you can do that to Jokic, Edwards on Luka with Gobert behind him, and Luka's gonna get. I mean, he set a line on technical fouls. And he say 6.5 or something. I mean, he's gonna be really frustrated. And I thought he did a better job towards the end, like in against the Thunder. He stopped complaining about halfway through, but it's gonna be a really physical series for Luka, and it's not like he's not used to that. The Thunder kind of like just bullied him and just are really physical. He's gonna be ready for that, but I think the Wolves will have that advantage.
I think if he didn't pick up 6 against Lou Dort, I don't know, maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker drives him up a wall because that guy is just a pest and annoying. And like the thing with Nickeil is sometimes he's really on and sometimes he's off. He is sporadic. It can kind of wild up and down. But like Minnesota has enough depth to survive him being bad. Today's game, he was 0 for 5 from 3 and 0 for 6 from the field. Like, didn't seem to matter that much. And as long as he can continue to contest and challenge Luka, I think we're looking at the T-Wolves in the finals.
What a world. What a world.
What a
My
world.
goodness. And like my family does the whole brackets to
Mhm.
pre-playoffs. None of us are right. Like we all lost. I haven't seen I should have got more, I always go chalk and then it's like, like the 1 seed loss. That was stupid. I should have seen that coming. I want to focus on like the champions getting knocked out because it's been a long time. It's been basically since with the KD Warriors that we've seen a contender, a championship winner win and then make it back and then have a good run after that. Because with the Warriors, the Warriors last year, not great. The 2021 Lakers were a disaster.
The Bucks after that winning their chip, Giannis gets her. Yeah, it's we have not seen a team make back-to-back deep playoff runs in a while. I mean, the Warriors with KD made it back to the finals and lost to the Raptors. After that, the Raptors. I don't remember what they did the year after winning the title. I suppose I can pull it up.
They
real
actually won
quick.
more games. They had like the Siakam jump, and they had the best winning percentage in franchise history. But they lost to the Celtics in the second round.
Yeah,
I'm a big 2020 Raptors
Conference
knower. I
finals
know
in
my
a row.
2020 Raptors shit. Yeah, so it's been a long time since you've seen that. And it's just I think it speaks to volumes of how difficult that is. Like how impressive that would have been for Jokic to repeat or for the Nuggets to repeat. Where are you guys at with the Nuggets moving forward? Are they just contenders for the end of time, or do you have a move you'd like them to make?
I mean, I got a lot of moves I'd like them to make. It's the series that we've watched. Teams have been able to bring useful players off the bench, and it doesn't have to be that deep. But like Indiana's gotten huge play from TJ McConnell. We'll talk about him in a minute. Minnesota got those huge final moments from Naz Reid. Denver, we said it all year. We've said like as soon as Bruce Brown left, which they couldn't re-sign him, but we're like, who else are you going to get? Can you package some of these young guys? Can you package future picks? Can you make some move to get some depth so that way your best bench player, your most reliable bench player, is not Reggie Jackson? So that way you have someone to back up the bigs. If Gordon's in foul trouble and Jokic needs a rest, that's not DeAndre Jordan. Like, Isaiah Hartenstein was supposed to be a backup. Isaiah Hartenstein played great for like 99% of these playoffs. If Denver could get a quality bench piece or two, like that would be huge and the chance to repeat, or I guess not long repeat, but win another title, get a second one of Jokic's career.
I think the current state of the CBA may have a lot to do with the difficulty in teams making repeat finals runs. It is very hard to get to a championship level of team without having superstars. Superstars are paid a lot of money, and the NBA really has continued to take away the ability for expensive teams to improve. So coming into this, the Nuggets, we talked about they had no way of bringing back Bruce Brown. They only had minimums to try to add with the likes of Justin Holiday and bringing back DeAndre Jordan. They just did not have a lot of resources to work with, and so they're going to face the exact same trouble coming into this offseason. Is okay, we need help. We can't win a championship if our bench is going 3 for 30 over the course of an entire series, and that 3 for 30 may not even be an exaggeration. That might be literally correct. But under the current CBA, there aren't resources for expensive teams to improve.
I was going to ask if the 3 for 30 was correct because I believed you. And maybe that just goes to show we're at. I was like, oh, yeah, 3 for 30. Looking at the Nuggets contracts, they have basically an entire roster under contract for next year except for DeAndre Jordan and Justin Holiday. Which good for them. Good for them. Finally moving off of some of those players. But
are you sure?
It's gonna be
Are you sure they're not gonna bring back Jordan?
Dude, they can't do that again. They can't do this again. He was supposed to retire 5 years. Supposed to retire 5 years ago. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
You would like them to see. I guess when you have Jokic, you really don't want to. You shouldn't invest anything in the backup center because he's not going to be playing very much in the moments you need. But I'm curious what kind of cap space they even have. I don't think they have very much. They have 177 on the books and then 190 on the books next year.
But what they do have is a massive salary in Michael Porter Jr., who, the salary you got to kind of look at it probably as a negative asset for trading, but they have some picks they can move. If you move that with picks, you can get multiple pieces. Like that's the avenue to getting better. And I think if MPJ is not going to elevate and not going to be star number 3, not going to be pushing for an all-star appearance, like he was either the third or fourth. He was the fourth or fifth most important Nugget and is paid a max contract money. Like you can't have that.
Yeah. The contract is massive at 4 years. Well, next year 35 million, 38 million, then 40 million. The Nuggets actually have the most money, well, tied with the Suns, tied up next season. I just looked that up. So financially, they're basically set. That's a pretty interesting idea to trade Michael Porter Jr. I think you could convince some team that he could be great, that he could develop into something more. It's just it'd be hard to say goodbye, given that the ceiling of what he can be is like the perfect forward to play with Jokic, or he's just the best spot up shooter at like 6'10" in the league. That's such a valuable thing that Jokic has just made such a dominant player at times, that 2-man game. We're just finding him open on the perimeter. I'd have a hard time finding someone with that kind of fit outside of Porter Jr.
Yeah, I'm not saying it'd be easy, but I am saying there are guys out there and if you need to make multiple trades, you make multiple moves to get guys. Hey, Sam Hauser. Hauser's about to be a free agent.
Harrison Barnes. Come get him.
I'm scrolling through a list of available free agents to try to hey, this is
would
the
you
guy.
Guys, if you're Denver, would you trade Porter Jr. for Barnes and Herter and some picks? There's something there right? To get off that Giga deal, and then you also have not one, but 2 players that can play basketball. Holy shit!
You got 2 players that can not contribute anything in the playoffs instead of just the
but
one.
Also picks and flexibility, and that has value.
There's some value to flexibility. I do feel like, I mean, if you're Denver, you understand that any asset coming in is more valuable to you than it is to the other team, because they don't have Jokic to make it better. And so you could convince yourself that Kevin Herter would look better in the Sabonis offense, or in a Jokic offense, than off those Sabonis handoffs or something like that.
Can I refocus this a little bit? Because we also had the elimination of the Thunder, and the Thunder had multiple opportunities to address their biggest weakness, which was upfront health. First off, they drafted Lively. They traded him for Cason Wallace. Overall, I think it's a fine deal, but they struggled against the size. They helped facilitate the Daniel Gafford deal. They could have gone out and got PJ Washington at the deadline. And also, back in this offseason, they were a team that was very much pushing to throw Naz Reid a large offer, because they could have outbid what Minnesota did. They are far enough under the cap. They also could have been a team that went after Karl-Anthony Towns when it looked like they needed to split him up, because they can absorb a lot of that cap space and free that up for Minnesota. How do you feel about the Thunder being involved in all of these bigs, theoretically or practically, and not getting them, and then losing because they got dominated inside?
I do think that it's a rare type of build, to come up against a team that has 48 minutes of really good center play. Looking around the league outside of a healthy Knicks, is there another team that can put 48 minutes of good centers who are so similar and so so dominant on the interior, and then also can have size at the 4? When looking at team building for the Mavericks, You for the Thunder rather. You look at the things that they do well and the ways that they're able to succeed, and one of those is by always playing 5 out. That's one of the ways that they're able to get to such a dominant level offensively, is by not having a negative big man standing in the paint taking up space that Shea or Josh Giddey or J Dub want to drive into. And so I think it's important to, when they're looking at team building, to not address a weakness and then by addressing that weakness create more weaknesses or take their own strengths off the table. They do have this one weakness, which is that their center, who's a rookie and is already a really good two-way player, is not a good defensive rebounder. But I don't think you want to eliminate your own strengths to try to address that one weakness, just because it got exposed by a team who, has a roster construction that you're not likely to come up against.
But they would have, right? I mean, if they made it through Dallas, they would have played an even worse, even bigger, more physical teams, right? And so
That's true.
to get to the Western Conference, you'd have to have some size. And I think it's the most like everyone on Earth is like Thunder are a small team. This is going to affect them. And they said it at the deadline. They said it heading into the playoffs. We said it all season. And they just were. They got hammered in the glass, like 47-31 games, the final game. I think 46-33 in game 5. And that's a pretty massive deficit for a game that was so close. I thought the Thunder could win basically all those games, to just lose out on those crucial rebounds. I think what happened to the Thunder is Josh Giddey became unplayable. And like the spacing was so bad. He gets benched after starting every single game in the regular season. They bench him in the playoffs. And he was a part of why they could be like so switchable and so versatile while still maintaining some size, because he's like 6'8" and averages 6 boards a game. So when you got rid of that, you fixed the spacing problem. Like Dylan said, you addressed a problem and then created a new one where it's like, now we have a really bad size problem because we don't have this big, tall guard in replacement.
And the connectivity issue. Giddey does do a good job of moving the ball, keeping the ball swinging from side to side. If you replaced him with a Derek Lively or a traditional big, I realize that you lose that. But it now feels like OKC has really stocked up on the wings. And Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Kason Wallace, they're all very relatively similar players. They do have different strengths and weaknesses. Kason maybe projects out as the highest of those. I'm just saying, what's wrong with having a little bit of versatility, having that big as an option? You could have gotten Gafford, or they could have gotten Gafford for next to nothing. And instead, that comes back to bite them.
Daniel Gafford's not someone you have to play. Like if he's not like you could have just had him, right? And he could have played and he could have been a situational pick, but Dallas leaned into that more. I feel like windows to win titles are unexpected and you cannot predict them. And if you're not at your best with the way the Thunder's roster is constructed with lots of cap space and so many picks, they could buy anyone on earth with that draft capital, to not at least like have a center as like, hey, what if we play a big team? Hey, all the teams in the Western Conference are gigantic. Come the second round, you realize that immediately. You really would have liked to address that. I think we'll just have to see, is this the 2012 Thunder where it's like, oh, they'll be back and they never are, or is this like 2013 Golden State where they'll come back, like they'll be fine, and then you see that this next season is an even bigger development.
I think next season is going to be a bigger development. Just they still have all of the guys on the contract. They've not started to get expensive yet. But if this playoffs has taught me anything, Indiana's in the Eastern Conference Finals. This playoff, if the salary cap is moving in a way where you can't keep dynasties together, where you can't stockpile talent, that tells me that you should always go for things. Like this idea of let's be patient and wait. That worked when there was the Juggernaut Warriors or the Heatles. Like, a lot of teams aren't going to compete with it. If your window isn't now, like if your superstar is not aging, is 27 to 31, like, okay, wait it out. But the volatility of what this playoffs is showing, like if this is the new NBA, this is what the cap is forcing teams to do. I hope that teams take note of it, and next year more teams try to make that extra move. You guys want to transition to the Knicks Pacers game 7?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I was working, putting in fence posts at my new house for the first half of that game. So by the time I started seeing it, OG was already back out, immobilized. Hart was gimpy. I don't think Brunson had hurt his hand yet, but Pacers just came and took care of business. The Knicks, kind of a zombie team. Aaron, did you catch any more of the game than I did?
About the same. About the same. I think you basically nailed it. The Knicks looked like the final girl in a horror movie. She's like limping, just covered in blood, head to toe. And you understand in the horror movie she wins, and this one Michael Myers gets her and just beats her even worse. It's like, oh, geez, it's a terrible movie.
Don't like that analogy.
The girl died. The final girl died at the end. Yeah, I mean, how many playoff games can you play 40 minutes a night? It was a cool thing the Knicks were able to do. I think the Knicks players are willing to just die on the court, and Tom Thibodeau was like, "Oh yeah, man, like this is great." I don't think it was Tibbs like cracking the whip necessarily. I think that the Knicks just as a culture were willing to do something like that, or willing to play as many minutes, deal with whatever injuries in case they win. I think they could have played with more depth, but the injuries started to pile up, and had they just maintained an 8-man rotation, they would have lost to Philly, right? Part of what made the Knicks good is they played their best players the entire game, and you only can do that for so
long. So I left that question, and I texted friend of the pod, Rem Rebound. Should Tibbs be on the hot seat a little bit? Like, has he taken this team as far as he can go? Aaron, you're saying no, but
no, the entire team got hurt. I mean, like Julius Randle didn't play, and like I know how we feel about Randle, but like, give me something. They were like 3.5 players by the end of this. I'm not asking for any more.
What is the history of Tibbs players? Tibbs has been a head coach in this league for like 15 years now, and how many of those guys have long, successful careers that don't have their bodies completely broken down?
No, Taj Gibson's in good shape. He's in good shape. I think teams that hire Tibbs build rosters that are willing to play 40 minutes a game. I don't think it's his fault. I think like that's what they've created there. It's not Tibbs's fault that they want to play 40 minutes. I don't think Tibbs could have stopped Josh Hart from playing every game. That's what he wanted to do, and I really believe that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, is Jalen Brunson hurting his hand because he had to play so many minutes? Like, other than the increased chance of those sort of injuries happen by increasing your minutes, like I think that they were able to succeed because of Tibbs, and because they are guys who can play a lot of minutes, and then ultimately, sometimes you get unlucky and your guys get hurt, and then you've got nothing left to play. And I think, just running it back, marginal improvements, and if they're healthy, they're right back as a conference contender.
I'm going to push back on this because it's not like one or two freak incidents. The entire team, like Josh Hart gritted Barrett through that game. Jalen Brunson fractured his hand, probably freak thing, but also, man, had a huge workload. Mitchell Robinson, sure, we could say he's a little injury prone. Randall hasn't been injury prone. OG Anunoby, yeah, he does have a little bit. But, like, you can't have 7 guys get hurt and, like, that not be in some way indicative of the coach that is playing these guys 40-plus minutes a night. Like,
but
You say he kept Hart, or like Hart wanted to play all these minutes. Hart, pre-All-Star break, 30 minutes a night. Post-All-Star break, 40 minutes a night.
He wanted them. Say, please,
Sure.
Please, Papa Tom, 48 minutes a night, please. I think each injury was related to each other. When OG gets hurt, the pressure on Hart triples. And then when Hart gets hurt, the pressure on the rest of the team triples. When Mitchell Robinson got injured, then Josh Hart had to play like pseudo center basically and average 10 boards a game. Each injury added more pressure to the guys that still remained.
Sure. Because instead of playing the bench during the regular season, he plays Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart 48 minutes in a closeout game because he wants that 2 seed. Well, Pacers have won. Do you give the Pacers any chance in the Eastern Conference Finals?
I thought you were going
Hell
to say,
no.
do you give them any credit?
I don't give him credit either. It's bullshit, man. I feel like I'm always going to be tied to the pace to the hip from the Halliburton trade. It's fucking ridiculous. Just for, I mean, and I guess I want to bring that back to the Thunder for a second. This season, anyone could win the title. Like, it's wide open. But I think Boston is the least convincing dominant team I've ever seen in my life. I know they're great. I can't buy in for that final step. And if you're OKC, it's like, why? Like, what fucking master plan do they have? They better get LeBron. They better have LeBron James by next season. Anything lower than that, I'm going to be disappointed. They better have something going on because you have the Pacers making the conference finals, and you're not even going to make an attempt to improve mid-seasons.
I cannot wait for someone from the LeBron James camp to be like, well, LeBron, the Lakers would have made the Eastern Conference Finals if they were in the East. And someone else would be like, yeah, that's the point. LeBron was able to make a shit ton of finals because he played in the East. Like,
Did that.
That's why he has a bad finals record. It's not because whatever. It's because he got to cakewalk through DeMar DeRozan forever. And I love DeMar, but
you respect Nikola Vucevic and the Orlando Magic. They are a Eastern Conference powerhouse.
yeah. No,
the Hawks
really
had 4 All-Stars. You're saying they weren't a super team?
Yeah, 4 All-Stars. Tatum would say that they are because the current Celtics only have 2 All-Stars. That's
true. Not a super
Coach
team.
of the Year.
Do we have a prediction on Boston Pacers? Do you guys think it'll be a sweep?
No. They let Marcus Morris get 20 points. I don't think Marcus Morris can play anymore.
I agree.
We have seen some geriatric playoff performances this year. That one is wild. Like, Tristan Thompson's getting real minutes, and that team is challenging Boston in some minutes and games. Like, Indiana should be able to get at least a game. I'm not going to give them 2, though, but I don't have enough faith in Boston to do what they should do and sweep.
I'm taking out a personal load and betting the house on Pacers to win Game 2 in Boston. Heat did it. Cavs did it. They'll do it too. Boston will win Game 1 by about 45 and then lose Game 2 in the most bizarre fashion you've ever seen.
Do either of you know the Porzingis status off the top of your head?
Out for games 1 and 2.
Interesting.
Yep. And so you come up against a team that's looking to push the ball down your throat at all times, and you're still without your rim protector.
Yeah. Although it's not like Porzingis is the most mobile, like get up and down. It's like the speed of the Pacers might have already presented a challenge for Porzingis.
Okay, is he going to be able to keep up with them better than 38-year-old Al Horford?
No.
Like how many 36-minute games does Al Horford have in him?
Horford's a spry 38-year-old.
I think he could play the Knicks right now. I'm going Pacers Wolves finals. Book it.
Oh.
No, Horford. Horford's fine. I've been thinking a lot about this because Aaron and I are jumping back in to do the next 100, 200 players for our top 3 to 500 all time. And I've been thinking about like what positions do the Celtics guys play? Because like we currently have Jaylen Brown in our shooting guard top 75. I'm like, do we push him to small forward? If we push him to small forward, does that mean we push Tatum to power forward? Is Tatum actually a power forward, or are they really just playing 2 small forwards? Is this Paul George and Kawhi? and like they're just kind of, it's a positionless NBA, except for when it's not. And the Pacers have a true power forward in Pascal Siakam, and I kind of worry about Tatum or Brown having to guard him a lot.
I mean, they can just do the old Al Horford trick. Like, is Miles Turner going to kill Jason Tatum on the post? Is Miles Turner going to kill
No.
Jason Tatum on the
Yeah.
offensive glass? Like,
Yeah.
you do the old Milwaukee Bucks trick. You put your 5 on their 4, and you live with Miles Turner ducking in for offensive rebounds, which he'll never fucking do.
So mean to Miles Turner. Miles Turner has the highest current block percentage in NBA history. Not in history, among active players.
Dylan, where's your love for where's your love for Miles Turner? He's a 3-and-D wing. You love 3-and-D wings.
Yeah, my Miles Turner opinion's drastically lowered once he stopped being good at 3 and stopped being good at D.
Damn, I feel like Miles Turner
And it's the wing.
the Kings have the 13th pick in this season, and every time I find a prospect, oh, that one's pretty good. That one's pretty good. I like that one. I'll look up like their comps every single time it's Miles Turner. I'm like, God damn it! I'm like, I just picture Vivek recreating Miles Turner on the whiteboard every time. Every that bit we had about like, oh, someone who's like tall, can like shot block, shoot threes. Ah, it's Miles Turner. God damn it.
Someone who could help guard the bigs when Sabonis is out there so he doesn't have to. Yeah. Oh, if only there was a player like that existed.
Redesign, like kind of more yellow uniforms and the Pacers again. Damn it.
Well, I guess that just leaves us with the Cavaliers, who were eliminated by Boston. Donovan Mitchell has 1 more year left on his deal. It's kind of an extend, or you need to trade him at the deadline. I think he technically has a player option after that, which I would not anticipate him picking up. I can verify that. How do we feel about what the Cavaliers showed us in this playoff run? A lot of it without Jared Allen. A lot of it without Darius Garland. I mean, he was on the court, but was he really? What do we feel about the future?
I think the biggest thing was Garland. This is the last season of the Garland-Mitchell pairing. It has to be. I think Garland's camp has already basically announced that, and Donovan Mitchell is always with one foot out the door in Cleveland. Excuse me. One of those guys is not going to be there. And if you're Cleveland, you want it to be Garland. I'm not sure what happened to Darius Garland. I think like years ago we were having like real conversations about him. He was an all-star caliber guard and just offensively wasn't able to really pressure anybody in any way.
I think back to the Sexland combo, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. And like there was a legitimate part of that where I felt like Colin Sexton was better. Because I mean, he was a young bull. He had that great game against the Brooklyn Big Three, which I'm just gonna say that one game like got so much mileage and so much play. Like he outscored the Big Three combined, or had like 48 points and pushed it to overtime. Maybe that should have been a red flag. That it was Garland and Sexton Sexton fell off super hard, and we're like, oh, there's still Garland. Maybe we should see more of this coming. Just if those two guys are on par.
Garland's contract's massive really quickly. It's absolutely gargantuan. 36 next year, 39, 42, 44. He's the only Cav on the book in 2028. My goodness.
Well, good news, he won't be on the books for the Cavs in 2028.
I look at that deal though. Who wants that? Who wants that contract? Any takers? The San Antonio, maybe?
Especially when you consider what the Cavs need, which is a 2-way fringe all-star on the wing. Like those guys are not easy to get. Like is Brandon Ingram turning around your franchise?
Maybe. Probably not.
Brandon Ingram. I had heard some push for Franz Wagner. I think that was the Simmons podcast. That's where they talked about that, and it was,
yeah,
Orlando's not going to do that. The contract is so much better for Franz that like you have to put in so much more to just get up to that floor, or you're just taking back a ton of extra money.
Yeah. And I think that trade's hard because Franz is simultaneously too valuable as an asset for them to make that move easily, and also not good enough to be what they need at this point in his career.
Also, he's low key like the culture of Orlando. University of Michigan guy. They drafted Jet Howard. They drafted Caleb Houston, two other University of Michigan guys. They brought
They've
in
got his
his
brother.
brother. Yeah, like I'm just picturing where the Magic hang out. The team's probably going to Franz's house. Like he's kind of the de facto leader of the team, whether he should be or shouldn't be, because it really should be Paolo.
We should know that. I want a report done, a study done. Where do teams hang out? Which teammate hosts the parties? I think it's an important thing to know.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
that's why DeAndre Jordan keeps getting these contracts, okay?
I was
He's a
going to say
vibes
that's
guy.
why Harrison Barnes is on the Kings. He must have ragers. Just he has this amazing party house. And they're like, yeah, Harrison Barnes. Barnes is hosting. It's the only way.
I think for the Lakers, it's like, damn it, LeBron's got a thing. Like,
Yeah, it's like wine book club. Like, God damn it, dude.
It's like, LeBron's got a Halloween party. You remember that
D'Lo
one they
never
threw about the
comes, like-
Warriors? I don't think D'Lo's invited. Did you see Swaggy P celebrating?
Man, I got a thing. I got a thing I gotta go to. Like they see him like on Instagram live in the club. Like, what's up, guys? Like,
Him and Austin Reeves.
yeah,
Did you
it's just
see-
LeBron and Austin Reeves. It's their dinner dates.
Did you see Nick Young celebrating the Lakers getting knocked out and saying it's because they brought back D'Angelo Russell and you can't trust snitches?
I did see that. You know what? I have thoughts about the D'Lo and Nick Young situation. I think Nick Young's a fucking moron. D'Angelo Russell was
No.
like 19 years old.
You're
He was
bragging
like a
about cheating on
kid.
your girlfriend.
Yeah, he was like a kid, and so you put him out of college in this really weird situation. You know, he doesn't know what's going on, and I do like to think Nick Young still has like hard feelings about the mistakes he made.
I don't know. I love Swaggy P. That's a special time in Lakers fandom. But also, like, you can't vilify the other guy when you told him you were cheating on your girlfriend and he happened to be on live stream. Like, I'm just saying, maybe you don't tell people that. Or maybe you just don't do that. Like, maybe you just don't cheat. Like, then you don't have this problem. But that's Swaggy P. I wanted to ask you guys about TJ McConnell. Is he the greatest point guard left in the NBA playoffs?
It's the greatest point guard of all time.
Do you remember earlier in the year when it was the Suns that were like way trading for him? Because he was kind of buried on the bench, and it was like Halliburton's getting more minutes, Neesmith's getting more minutes. It's like TJ
Nimhard
didn't
at the
play.
backup one.
Yeah. And so it was like, is TJ just kind of the odd man out? Could Phoenix get him and like have, a little bit of a playmaker? And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this other move to get in Royce O'Neal and Roddy, big David Roddy instead. If Phoenix had gotten TJ, are they in the finals?
No, come on, man. I mean, I like TJ McConnell. Not that I like TJ McConnell. He's a good player. I remember when he absolutely torched the Kings earlier this season. I don't think that there's not one 20-minute a night role player that's going to fix what we saw from Phoenix. But he's been a really good impact guard off the bench for a Pacers team that has a chance of making the finals. And by the way, in like 2 minutes, I need to step away for like 3 minutes. Just a heads up, I might disappear.
No worries. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to grab TJ's stats here. 20 minutes a night in the series, 12 points, six assists. I think that's difference maker. I think Phoenix desperately could have used him. Would have made it all work. That offense could have clicked.
I really like him off the bench because when the star comes off, when like the Pacers star guard Halliburton comes off, for the other team, you're probably like, okay, this is good for us. Like I'm happy Halliburton's sitting. Then it's like, fuck, TJ McConnell's coming out. Now he's gonna press me 94 feet, and I have to deal with like I have to just be way more engaged, way more active when on offense when McConnell's in compared to Halliburton because he's such a pest, because he's such like a high IQ, lunch pail, first guy in, last guy out, deceptively athletic kind of player. I mean, it's based. I think it's similar to like Patrick Beverly, basically. Where, like when the star sits, you're like, God damn it, now I have to like deal with Patrick Beverly. Now it's like not as fun, and I feel like he makes an impact that way.
Did you see they asked Josh Hart, and I think it was asked on the podcast before the series started, and probably even before they knew they were playing the Pacers, if you could fight anyone in the NBA, who would you fight? And he's like, TJ McConnell. It's like, that guy just passed. And he's like, plus I think I could win. And it was like, it's like, that's a good quote to be circulating right now as the Knicks have lost.
Going against the Celtics, who succeed in a much different way than the Knicks do, where they're not a more, I guess, point guard heavy heliocentric offense. Do you think there's a role for TJ McConnell to make that same level of impact in the second round, or are we going to see him marginalized again as they look to get more wings on the floor to guard the Celtics wings, and going up against, probably a better overall defense, is TJ McConnell, who can't shoot, can't play off the ball. Is he going to be able to find a place to exist offensively?
I'm sure he will. I think what he's going to do is just keep Derek White or Drew Holiday engaged. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to get away with some Peyton Pritchard minutes. Like, you will probably always need one, if not both of them on the floor, because the combo BJ Halliburton minutes are hard to defend. You need to have two defensive guards that are really good. And thankfully, Boston, or I shouldn't say thankfully, because, God, this is not a good series for Nate's personal fandoms.
It's rough,
Dallas,
right?
fuck Boston. At this point, I'm reduced to cheering for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I've been in fights with Timberwolves fans for weeks now. And like, I'm happy to cheer for my old home state. I do like Indiana, but I just don't have any faith that they can do anything. It's like, what is the meme? Hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby? Like,
feels that way. It feels that way.
Might be more like Mack truck versus like 30-year-old tortoise. Like, maybe the tortoise survives, but
that's a spry young tortoise, dude. Tortoise lives for a long time.
yeah.
Make them much older.
Listen, I think if you get a 100-year-old tortoise,
just a regular ass tortoise.
yeah. But if you get like a 100-year-old tortoise, that's gonna fuck up a Mack truck. Like, it goes over it. It's
the size.
Yeah. Like, I need a smaller turtle type thing.
Bareback.
Yeah. Well, Dylan, what else you got? What other playoff thoughts or off-season thoughts? We're rambling close to the off-season.
Yeah, no, we're getting there. Interesting phenomenon that we're going to run into this off-season is that the free agent market is very weak. And there are legitimate cap space teams and good cap space teams. Like the Thunder could get to max cap space, the Sixers can get to max cap space, and there's like no guys in the free agency worth a max offer. And so it could be a time where we see a lot of trades going down, which is always more exciting than just a free agency signing. And one other thing that we're going to get this year, one of the things I actually liked from the new CBA is you can now use your mid-level as a trade exception and take back a guy that's making up to the mid-level, rather than having to sign one of these crappy free agent players.
I didn't realize you could do that. This is why I love having you on the pod, because you to read the CBA and know what's going on.
I've got it downloaded as a PDF. I read it every night before bed.
It's, some people read the Bible, some people read, The Wolf on Wall Street, some people read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You read through the NBA Cat Machination.
I light my candle in front of my shrine to Daryl Morey, and I read the CBA.
Yeah, I was skimming through the list of free agents earlier, and it's rough.
Yeah.
Isaiah Hartenstein, he might get a big deal this year because he played incredibly well. He fits with a lot of. Man is a fantastic passer. I didn't know he had much passing chops until I watched every playoff game of the Knicks run, and I was like, man, this is consistent, good, high level passing.
Yeah, no, he was a huge difference maker for the Knicks. Having a guy who has that rare skill set of being a elite rim protector, you wouldn't think it by looking at him, but you look at any of the rim protection stats, and he is right up there. And then you combine that with a guy who can finish at the rim, can catch an alley-oop, but can also make a pass on the short roll. There aren't a lot of those guys in the NBA. It's a valuable skill set, and I do think he's going to get. I do think he's going to get paid. The Knicks, I think he's essential for them. They need to be the team that pays him. But yeah, big payday coming for him. And then the biggest free agent is Pascal Siakam, who just got traded to a new team on a free agent contract. Those are the kind of moves that happen only when you've got the understanding of the contract that's gonna need to be offered. And same with OG Anunoby, can be a free agent, but you imagine he's already got it figured out with the Knicks.
Yeah. Did Paul George opt into his contract yet?
No, I guess he is. Yeah, no, he's a guy that could change teams. Is he a enough of a difference maker for the 76ers or for the Thunder? Does he elevate them?
He would be really nice in the Thunder, and he could fit what they do to a large degree. He's got all the versatility. He can space the floor. I just don't know about giving him that big contract that lines up with when they're going to need to pay J-Dub or, not Chet, but maybe Chet, because if they give him a 3 or 4 year deal.
Yeah, I think it actually worked fairly well because they could line it up so that he's off contract when the extensions for those guys kick in.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. My dream Thunder offseason is they draft Bronny. LeBron holds true to his vow and takes the minimum contract there. And then they say, hey, Lakers, you guys want to rebuild fast? Here's a just buttload of picks, Ousmane Deng, Kayson Wallace, and whatever other salaries needed to get Anthony Davis. And then they are just insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shot that LeBron's playing in Oklahoma City. It's one of the unfortunate circumstances of being a team where they are. If they were the Los Angeles Thunder, teams would be lining up to players would be lining up to join them.
He said he'll go wherever his son's drafted, and he said he'll go there for a minimum. So I'm just saying.
Do you see the latest report? It dropped directly after there was a suggestion that the Utah Jazz had a significant interest in Bronny. Immediately following that, a report came out that said, LeBron wasn't serious about, joining his son.
Yeah, I think it's all spin. It wouldn't shock me at this point if Bronny comes out. It wouldn't shock me if Bronny goes back. It wouldn't shock me if LeBron plays with him. It wouldn't shock me if LeBron resigns with LA. At this point, there's been so many things that have come out that I just, we'll see.
Did the Lakers have a second round pick this year? Is that just the most common?
Round.
Is that just the most likely circumstance? They just draft Bronny.
I mean, I don't know. if I was another team, I would draft Bronny to try to call LeBron's bluff. It's
I,
how
w-
much
I
is
would
he
not
worth
be
to you?
wasting. I would not be wasting draft picks to play a game with LeBron James.
Hey guys,
Eh,
I was relegated to
you
the
know.
backstage. I got kicked out. I got put in timeout.
I forgot you don't have access because we switched over to
Yeah.
that I'm hosting this now. So we'll have to get you access.
I used to be able to. I'm not sure what changed, but I caught the Bronny conversation. I do enjoy watching mainstream media try to make a non-NBA player look like one. They're like, he plays basketball technically, right, guys? Come on, he's first round pick. It's interesting. I think I'd like for him to get drafted. I hope he plays with LeBron. I think that would be cool. I'm not trying to go full hater mode, but someone's gonna take a swing on him.
Could he be a good fit for the Charlotte Hornets?
I saw the comp of Davion Mitchell. Like he's a shorter, worse Davion
Yeah,
Mitchell.
he's 6'1", Davion Mitchell.
Yeah,
I think that was
they
the most
asked him
damning
to
thing.
describe his game, and he was like, "I'm like Davion Mitchell, but I can shoot." And I was like, "Well, you shot 20% in college from three, so
At least Davion actually could shoot in college. I feel like with Bronny, the most damning thing was the height, because I thought he was 6'4". We all thought he was 6'4". And he shows up to the combine 6'1.25", basically. You're like, holy shit. Yeah, I guess this is just like you have a 2 guard stuck in a point guard's body. That is a classic combo of players that don't pan out.
Yeah,
it's one of my great fears is that I tower over my sons the way LeBron towers over his.
And that is like one of the things that concerns me coming up to this upcoming draft. You know, looking at the players that are actually going to get drafted, is you do have a lot of like small guards projected for high positions, and it's just like these guys never work out. Like I understand, as I've done a little bit more research into this draft now, why it's so being regarded so poorly. Like normally you get like a poor draft has good depth at least. Like the top's weak. You know, you get Anthony Bennett at number 1, but then you get Giannis at 15 or whatever. But like projecting these 6'1" scoring point guard, scoring 2 guard is like as a top 10 pick, it's like, oh man, this is gonna be rough.
I love it. I hadn't eaten this shit. I'm so happy this draft is bad. I'm tired of the good draft picks. I'm tired of every draft being so damn good. I want a real stinker, a real classic, awful draft. When I saw that the original,
Aaron, what are you talking about? You're in Sacramento. Every draft is an awful draft
The
with your
13th
GM.
pick is fantastic. If we had a top pick, I'd complain about it. But I just think the league as a whole. Well, I'm happy as a Kings fan because if good players keep coming into the league, we're not going to be able to win games. I need only bad players. Like stop the count. Stop the influx of good players. Like Sacramento needs to get a hold of this. But KOC's original mock draft had who was it? Stephon Castle, I think, going first. And it was like shades of Markelle Fultz, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Shades of the biggest bust of the last 10 years. Hell yeah, first overall pick.
I was asked on TikTok who the Pistons should draft, and I'm like, I've not done enough draft research. I also have been in the midst of moving and just haven't had any time to make TikToks. But I've been listening to a lot of draft pods, a lot of draft talk, and they were talking about. I want to say it was Reed Shepherd. It's either Hammercast. They were talking about a prospect, and they're like, "Listen, this guy is just a lights out, knockdown 3-point shooter. Can he dribble? Maybe he's not like a ball handler. Is he like one of the worst defensive players I've ever seen in college? Yeah, but can he shoot?" And I'm like, "That's the guy. The Pistons should get that guy." Because they're like, "Yeah, he's like Luke Kennard plus, like slightly better Luke Kennard." Like, oh man, that's
go. I'm so into this. I want 4th overall pick Luke Kennard.
Is it Reed? Yeah, Reed Shepard shot 52% from 3 this last year.
Yeah. The Ringer has
That's
him mocked
yeah.
at 6 right now to the
Go to the
Hornets.
Pistons.
Shades of Derek White. No, he's a good defensive player.
Cool. We'll reach.
I'm just whoever the Kings pick is going to be dastardly, I'm sure. Right now, they have another like 6'3" guard mocked us. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if Monk leaves, that's the pick, right? That makes sense. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
Monk to
Wings,
Orlando
wings,
seems like
wings.
distant.
Yeah, they've had like the Clay rumors, and I'm like, please go in like 30 million a year for Clay instead of 20 for Monk. Like, God, please make that mistake. But yeah, wings, please. Someone over 6'8". My goodness.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we're at an hour. We've done the first live pod. Any final closing takes?
The Wolves win the championship.
I like it. Aaron, where can the people find you?
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter. My Patreon posted my Magic Johnson write-up, I think last week. Go check that out. Yeah. In this podcast all the time.
Dylan, where can the people find you?
On the Hoops Temple podcast every week.
You can find me, Nate_Hoops_Temple at TikTok. You can email us all, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we'll keep doing some of these live shows. Let us know if you liked it, or if you just check them out later. So, cool. Let us know.